All right, first off, let's give it up for
Book launch.
Lenny and Barnes & Noble for setting up this event. And we're not going to use any profanity for the rest of the podcast. It's going to be hard, but we're doing it.
And also, on the profanity note, we do have to thank our editor, Marion, because we wanted to, we use a lot of that. But it was one thing where she drew it back just enough to where it makes us seem artful and not overly ridiculous. So we have to thank Marion for that.
Yeah, but we just like doing Q&As. We have something. Yeah, we mostly just like hanging out and just doing Q&A. So if you have any questions, keep them in your head. If you don't have any questions, think of them right now.
Basically, this book is kind of a culmination of everything that we've been through, experienced, and learned up until this point. And we also feel like this book is a jumping off point for where things are going in the future. And so this is kind of just honestly, this is just a moment for us that we really just thank you guys for being a part of, because this is just kind of for two kids who were raised in a quasi-cult on the extreme fringe of religion and were emotionally manipulated as kids by the leadership in their church, who used Cliff's Notes to get through middle school and high school. I'm pretty confident I never actually read a book. And having grown up eating meat 3 times a day, for me it was probably more like 5 or 6, because I had some weight issues as well. We grew up on the other side of the tracks. In many ways, like, who we are now and who we were then, that's art. Like, because we've lived, and I'm not blowing smoke, we've lived as 2 different people. We grew up...
Probably more than that.
Yeah,
probably more than 2 people.
It's true.
20 people.
Just thinking back, we can both recall in church hearing our pastor use a verse in the Bible and talk about how if you're a vegetarian, you have weak faith. Like, that's the kind of stuff we grew up. So we didn't grow up thinking that, like, vegetarians were just a little, it's kind of weird that they don't eat meat. We literally thought that vegetarians and vegans were going to hell. That's not a joke. Now we're up here right now doing what we're doing. Like, that, that's art. Like, that shows you what is possible during your lifetime.
And it shows that, like, we can't judge people. We need to be understanding. If someone, no matter who they are or what they believe, you don't know where that person came from, what their experiences were like in life. Like, if someone, I assume, how many people here are already vegan? Yeah, so that's sweet. So I just lost my train of thought, so speaking specifically about veganism, like, we come up against opposition every now and then. Like, veganism is exploding now. Everyone, people are going vegan in droves from all walks of life. But there's still, every now and then you still face opposition. Maybe someone thinks you're weird, or they think that, like, you're going to hell because you're vegetarian or whatever. Like we did. That's very rare. But you don't know where another person has come from, and to us, it's like, we need to be understanding of people, and when you're understanding of where someone's coming from, that's when they can open up and they can kind of
That's
come
when it
out.
blossoms.
That's when it blossoms.
We've experienced it from multiple different places. We grew up, piling on guilt, shame, and judgment to other people, and literally to almost the entire world. That's the way we viewed it. Like, if you didn't go to our specific sect of religion, if you weren't in our church every Sunday and Sunday night and Wednesday night, if you weren't doing that, we judged you. We were taught to judge you. So we have done that, and then we've also felt that judgment. We felt that shame. We felt that guilt. Phil grew up extremely shy, socially awkward, couldn't make eye contact or hold a conversation with anyone until he was 22. I grew up... He's the one that started saying it. I memorized it.
And that's our parents back there as well. Those are the... Those are the parents that raised us in the quasi cult.
Yeah.
And we escaped. We got,
got
out,
out.
and now they're
And
now
got
we're all
out,
vegan.
and now they're vegan, open-minded, and full of love and acceptance. And that's really, that's indicative of really what we tried to do, what we've tried to do with Vegan Bros, and really what we feel like we've done with this book is we've spent so much time just judging people and feeling judged. And the reality is, life is a journey. And it's just a culmination of our experiences. And what we found is when we started to accept ourselves and accept the questions, accept the concerns, accept that we might not have it all figured out, then we could stop pushing that onto other people. And then we can just build bridges, create friendships, and just figure life out together. So we're at this place where, sure, I mean, we've judged, we didn't grow up vegetarian. So we used to judge vegetarians. And then what did we do? Then we became vegetarians and vegans, and then we started judging everyone who's not. Just like with our religious background, we used to judge the world, and then we flipped the switch and became militant atheists and started judging everyone who's religious. I mean, we've done that.
It's just what we're all doing, guys. We're all just judging each other and messing the world up.
And that's really like life. When the more sides you can experience, the more understanding you have of others and of yourself. And really, like, we've run the full gamut. Like, I'm 34, turns 31 like next week or the week after. And we feel like we've lived interesting lives. Like, I was 100 pounds overweight. Yeah, it's true. The story that we found within ourselves is the story that everyone can find within themselves. And that's the stuff that we're interested in other people. And so really, this book, Vodka is Vegan, the title alone is indicative of just the approach that we feel we want to carry with the world for the rest of our lives, which is just, we can talk about the way animals are treated and the environmental impact and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, this is our example of what we think is the way to bridge the gap, which is, it's easy. Vodka is vegan. In marketing, it's the foot in the door technique. And basically, we don't care, everyone's on their journey here. If you go vegetarian, if you go vegan, if you do Meatless Monday, wherever you're at, I don't care. I'm not trying to, we're not interested in telling you what to do, telling you how to live. We've done that to ourselves, and we felt that. We're just all on a journey. And so this book is an invitation to a conversation.
Yeah, it's all about making the barrier to entry as low as possible. Going vegan overnight, that's possible, and a lot of people have done it. Or maybe not a lot of people, but a decent chunk of people have done it. But it's for the average person, just giving up meat, we need to be understanding, that's, for a lot of people, that's a difficult thing to even fathom. Let alone also even just getting people to do Meatless Mondays, or even just committing to eating a vegan meal, one vegan meal a week or something like that. That can even potentially be difficult. So this is our making the barrier to entry as low as possible by saying let's just do a shot of vodka and enjoy it.
And we've tested this out. We've tested this out over the years, and that's what we started to realize as we got this book deal and started writing the book. We realized that we had been street testing this stuff for years, because when he went vegan, he was like a jerk, and I was anti-vegan. So
I sort of felt like I gave up meat when I was 17, and I was more just weird when I was 17. I wasn't really that abrasive at that point, but for some reason in my brain it was just this thing where I'm gonna go vegan at some point. And when I go vegan, I have to become crazy. I have to become abrasive and all that stuff. I just associated them, and then when I went vegan, I just became crazy. Luckily, it was only for a few months, but it was this thing where I'm the crazy abrasive vegan, and then he's reacting.
I'm the crazy abrasive anti-vegan.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is when he changed, when he adjusted his course, I became more open and interested. and he got me.
Yeah.
And what?
Yeah.
That's
Then we got them. We got both of our parents. You know, we got.
And so that was the street testing. I mean, we have countless family, extended family, friends, acquaintances, random people that we've met, and over the course of our lives, we've stayed connected with them. Like we have roommates that we had when I owned a home in Michigan and owned businesses there, and they would literally they would buy half a cow and put it in the freezer, and we were like, you know what, we're friends with you. We're friends with you. We're not.
That's what it's about. Yeah, it's not about like being friends with someone with conditions. Like, oh, you bought half of a cow. I'm not gonna, you know, like, oh, that's you went too far. It's like, no, like they bought half of a cow. That's what they're doing with their life. Like, I'm not down with it. They know that I'm not down with it. But like, you know, we're just hanging out. We're friends. And before you know it, fast forward, and we knew in our minds, we knew they're gonna go vegan. Fast forward, I mean, I don't know, 5 years or whatever. Yeah, one of them went vegan. His wife went vegan. And now they have a kid, and their kid's vegan. So that just shows
it's
what's
crazy.
possible.
It's crazy.
And it's like if you don't have the attitude of like, oh, you're putting half a cow in the freezer, how dare you? And like, you know, you lose your mind.
So it can be a little difficult. I mean, obviously it's mostly vegetarians and vegans here. It can be a little difficult to swallow the pill of, holy crap, it can't happen right now. And it could happen right now. But we're all on a journey. And so we all have stuff that we have to get through. And if you can swallow the pill of not trying to press someone to do something because you want them to do it and just to help them figure their own life out, chances are, at some point, I mean, we know, dude. I know. Like, everyone's vegan on the inside. It's true, dude. Because when people see, like, what are those videos you see on Facebook and stuff? What? When you see, like, a fox or a raccoon stuck in a trap or stuck under a tree, why does the video go viral? Because everybody's like, oh, I gotta save them. Gotta save them. When they look at my dog, oh, Peyton's so cute. Look at this puppy right here, so cute, right? I mean, it's literally it's so obvious that everyone is just down with animals, doesn't want to hurt them, doesn't want to hurt anybody. So if we stop battling them,
that's sort of the attitude you have to have. It's just like, you know, everyone agrees with us. Even people that eat meat, like they agree with us. Most people, when they see a mother pig confined to a cage so small she can't even turn around, like nobody is like, oh, that's sweet. Like I support that. Like no, everyone already agrees with us, and it's like when you have that attitude, like people, you know, come to our side.
Yeah, and we're really proud and excited of what we came out with this book. I mean, we're excited about it. We love it, and this is like a drug moment. Like just to be at this place where our book's out. Like people are reading it all over the country right now. People have ordered it. Like it's sold out in the UK. Like Amazon UK had already sold out. So like it's just, I mean, it's and
my favorite thing, the Independent calls it the antithesis to the evangelical narrative that isolates so many people from a plant-based lifestyle. That's what we did.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's do some.
That's what we're doing.
Questions. We need some questions, right? David.
Aside from your parents, have more friends back home in the church? Have you had the conversation with them? Have they gone?
As far as like leaving the church or going vegan?
Going vegan.
We do have friends who grew up in the church with us who are vegan. We also have, that's true. Yeah, so I mean, there have been. There's also, we have friends who are like I have a college buddy who is like a police officer. He was one of those people that was like me. That's like, there's no way this dude's ever gonna do it. Like he's on his path. But then there's also people like with our religious upbringing. It's cultish. So like when you're on the inside, you're on the inside. And there's kids that we grew up with who are stuck on the inside.
I was just gonna say, like when we talk about our upbringing, like the cultish upbringing, like we're not talking about mainstream Christianity. Like we're like right. The way we grew up was like so far on the fringe of that it's just like we thought like 99% of Christians were just like the most evil people in the world.
We always feel the need to impress upon you that we're not.
It was just crazy.
You. Yeah,
we're not talking about mainstream Christianity, but anyway.
but I mean, an interesting point to note that we kind of really cover in the book and is a vibe of the book is that on a large basis, the like religious communities around the world are waking up in droves.
Yeah, you've even got Franklin Graham. I'm not sure if he's still vegan. Do you know if he, well, we don't want to highlight
Okay,
that.
we shouldn't have asked.
Well, anyways, I think just the fact that he went vegan, I mean, that's crazy. This just shows you how far we're
we
coming.
know the stats about that. Once somebody's done that, they always eat less.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
even if someone goes vegan and they stop being vegan, like they still, even after that, they're still eating significantly more vegan meals. So.
But that's one of the things we're most excited about. The religious communities are waking up, and we feel in America that the religious communities, like Christianity, is really taking the lead here because
and
compassion.
we need them to take the
Yeah,
lead. Like that's
because compassion and all of that stuff is at the root of the teachings of Jesus. So that's just kind of an exciting thing that we see happening in religion in general.
Josh.
First, congratulations, guys. This is so exciting. I've been looking forward to reading this book since I heard about it, and to be here is just a tremendous experience. So, congratulations to you both. My question is that you both, you worked at animal organizations, worked at bowel measures. There's fine-tuned talking points that are very effective. You all, I kind of threw away every talking point there is and just are yourselves. How did you make the decision to kind of forget about like poll testing things and just say, listen, I'm just going to talk to you as if you and I are talking in the bar?
That's a really good question. I really like that a lot.
That is a really
First
good
of all,
question.
I just want to say that I love that question.
Holy crap, that is a really good question. Yeah.
I think it. Go ahead. If you
Well, to me, I think there is an element of what we're doing where there is like all the sound bites and the talking points that I learned from working at Mercy for Animals and from you doing what you're doing at HSUS and people in the media and everything. And I think Nick Cooney's book, Change of Heart, What Psychology Can Teach Us About Spreading Social Change, like that had a massive impact on me. I feel like it's like that mixed with like the vibe.
It's true. It's true, guys. We're those people now. We're like, it's all about the vibe and the energy and stuff like that. That's what's true.
But I think the most important vibe to carry with you is that everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I learned from Change of Heart, is that like human beings, like we like to think that like we're logical and we're rational and we're like, we make decisions based on our morals and our ethics. But really, and like, there's a level of truth to that. But really, we're paying attention. Like we like to follow the crowd. Like when I say we, I mean just human beings in general. Like what is everyone else doing? That's what we want to do. And so I think any way we can present the message in a way where it makes it seem like everyone is doing it. So like when we're saying like, most people are opposed to animal abuse, like that's a good talking point. When you're talking about how like, Richard, the billionaires like Richard Branson and Bill Gates are investing in, plant-based companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods and stuff like that. Like that sort of gets that vibe across.
We sort of do develop we have some natural talking points that we just sort of develop, especially with the book coming out. We've done a lot of interviews, and there are talking points that develop. I think it's, first of all, there's something that we always say, which is, a lot of people say, which is you have to follow the rules before you can break them. And I think that's definitely a big point, is that, first of all, if you internalize all of those talking points and those attitudes and everything, and you embody that, then you have the opportunity, because a lot of times when you're doing that, you're trying to figure out who you are, and you're emulating.
You're imitating like an expert. You're imitating like an expert, which sometimes you need to do that to figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And you do need to do that.
So you master that, and then you're able to bring it into authentically who you are. And we really think that we kind of found it out on accident, because he was doing the talking point thing, and I was kind of learning from that a bit, but I was in the entrepreneurial world. So I had this thing where, since I learned to go vegetarian and vegan from him, I didn't have as much of the militant stuff that I had to get through. And he really fast-tracked me kind of just being a normal person, And we noticed, like, when he would be home from, doing tours with Mercy for Animals back in Michigan, we would note, like, we're doing something different. We just knew. We knew that we were doing something different, like with our roommates, with our friends, like with the people in our town. I mean, we're not from Los Angeles. We're from a small town an hour outside of Detroit. It's borderline.
And we're not hanging out with people that you would think like, oh yeah, they're like they would go vegan. Like we're hanging out with people that like you would never expect to go vegan.
Yeah. And it's kind of just been a learning process and a realization over time. and we're constantly testing it out. I mean, it's our lives, so it's like testing it out. I mean, that is our lives. Like, we've done a lot of traveling. When we wrote this book is a book for vegans, but it's also a book. What we feel is it's our first invitation out to the mainstream. I mean, this is a book that literally anyone can read, and we're most excited about what's really happening in the segments of society that have really been sort of written off and left behind for a long time. And part of that's necessary in the animal advocacy world, because you have to go for the low-hanging fruit for a while. When you're trying to get a foothold, you need to go for
And you're trying to figure out what to do. Like, you're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But as you're trying to figure it out, you can't get locked into, like, we figured it out.
Right.
This is where we're at. We're doing it 100% right. Because you're never, like, life is progress. You're never going to reach the end goal. The end goal is the path. So you're always trying to get better and 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 better. And it's like a never-ending process. And yeah, I think just like as you're doing that, it just becomes like a part of who you are. And yeah, and also I think it's important to like each person's story is important. So it's important to remember your story. I think a lot of people feel ashamed of their stories.
Ooh,
a lot of people we're all trying to like run away from our past. We're trying to run towards some moment in the future where it's like that's where happiness is at. And it's like you kind of got to merge it all, where it's like the past and the future and the present, and you got to be happy where you're at. And like there's power in your story, so even just like sharing your story or just being comfortable with who you are and where you came from, like that's a vibe that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't even know what I'm saying.
When you get to the place where you're so comfortable in your own skin that it's not that you don't care what anyone else thinks, but you're just so comfortable being yourself. That's when you're the most dangerous to the world in the best way. And we encourage more of that for sure.
Vodka helps.
I'm vegan, so no hard sell here. But what do you say to detractors who are like, well, yeah, you come from the wrong side of the tracks, but you're still two white guys up here telling the rest of the world, not telling, but you have the ability to be here, and it's more of the same. Oh, great, it's white guys who are then leading the way. What do you say to that?
As far as like we're telling people what to do.
Not what to do, but just like this is the way. And mind you, I fully appreciate. So you don't need to. I'm just saying that as somebody who is a woman in this country, and we're very aware of men being the perpetrators of the movements in culture and social justice. And so it's just a question. What do you say to those people?
Well, we are white guys on stage. Like, we're not gonna. It's true.
We're just gonna sit down.
Yeah. We'll be straight up. We're not. This is like we're not gonna debate. There's no debate. We're not in this book and in our platform. We don't tell people what to do. We're not interested in that. We have a story. That's our lives, and we just want to build bridges and share our story. That's really all we do. In the book, we're literally not telling anyone to do what we say. We want people to
figure
find
out
who
their
they
own.
are, to follow their own path, to get in touch with their past.
Yeah, it's like whatever anyone else wants to do. It's like, yeah, we have like our path, and it's sort of like a path that we sort of think like, oh yeah, it'd be sweet if everyone else followed this path. But if you're not going to follow that path, it's like that's on you. And it's like we spent so much of our life just telling other people what to do that we're just at a point where it's just like we're done telling anyone what to do. And we'd rather just lead by example and focus on leading our own lives. And when people see what we're doing, maybe they'll want to jump on board.
Yeah, and if anything, another thing is if people see what we're doing, what part of what we're doing is we want to empower other people to be the best version of themselves, whoever that is. So.
Woo!
Nora.
Hey, so I love both you guys. I can't wait to read the book. I love what you like, just the aspect of your story about Christianity and kind of coming at it, looking at the kind of judgment that you experienced on both sides there. And there's this saying of like, what is the idea of like within Christianity that sometimes Christians make Christianity look bad, kind of thing. And I think a lot about how vegans can make veganism look bad.
There's a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities.
I feel like within grassroots activism, there's this, there's the like folks who consider themselves abolitionists opposed to meatless Mondays, that's sanctioning that it's okay to eat, torture and rape animals 6 days a week. All of these, kind of hardline views. And I wonder, what you say to kind of puncture that bubble that like everyone has to be vegan and like to kind of soften that and kind of remove some of the attachment and the activist urgency and energy to not let people find their path.
Yeah, well, that's something we've tried to figure out over the last few years. And I think where we've sort of come to with everything is we feel like it's important to just try to understand where the other person is coming from no matter what. And I think that's one of the things, like, before I went vegan, I thought vegans were weird and crazy and, bad people and whatever. Then I went vegan, and now I'm thinking the meat eaters are bad, and I'm hating them, and I'm judging them. And then eventually I got to a point where now I'm realizing, like, okay, doing that prevents people from going vegan. And then I start judging the people. I'm losing my train of thought there, but I'm like, I'm shifting who I am, and I'm always judging the last version of myself, and I just keep judging that person. Before now, it's like I'm just at a point now where it's like I just want to understand. I just want to do my best to understand where everyone's coming from. And I think one of the things with vegan, abolitionist vegans or the more abrasive vegans or just the crazier vegans is, like, if you really think about it, I mean, like, them being that way in a way, I don't advocate being like that, but it makes sense. Like, they learn about how animals are treated. They're being tortured and slaughtered on such a mass scale. Like, that does make you go insane. And you're looking around, like, everyone around you is eating meat, and it's like makes you go insane. So I think it's important to just understand that. And I think no matter who you're interacting with, it's always important to. And when you do understand the other, when the other person feels like you're trying to understand them, it sort of brings their defenses down to where they're more willing to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, it's like, it's always got to start with you. Most of us are always just looking out and blaming things on others and projecting onto others, and it all starts with us. The way anything changes in the world is when somebody decides that, holy crap, like, everyone's doing this stuff, but really, like, there's stuff you're doing, and there's stuff that you can do to look inside and it starts and stops with you. So say hypothetically, like, someone's doing something that you're not okay with. I mean, can you actually control anyone? Like, no. Do you want to control anyone? No, it doesn't feel good. You don't feel good when you're controlled. What feels good? When you shake someone's hand, when you hug them, and you're like, dude, I understand. When you are looking at other people, and you pride yourself on saying, man, I just don't understand where they're coming from. That's the problem.
That's when you need to look inside, because that's what
it's not. Understanding does not mean you agree with the other person. It means you understand how somebody could develop that. We grew up being homophobic. Milo is one of our best friends. How did that happen? It's a bridge to understanding. That's all it is. And it wasn't because we were forced. It was because we were shown that what we thought just wasn't true. And I think, really, our whole tone, the tone of our lives right now is understanding. And yeah, I think the more of that is just.
I just have a comment more than a question. I appreciate that. I'm here not as a vegan, but I appreciate the gentleness because. Oh, what? You're shouting behind me? Sorry. I'm just saying difference between, like, guilt and shame. Guilt is like what you do. Shame is like about who you are. It's so scary to hear that you've been doing something wrong because you feel like you are wrong. And I was raised like hardcore Roman Catholic, and I realized Fish on Fridays is just about the church trying to get rid, like, in cahoots with fishmongers. Like, you start to realize that, like, you have been a part of it, and it's incredible that you're maybe going to make it easier for people to hear when people aren't so defensive. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. That's a huge key. I mean, we've built bridges with pretty much every type of person that we can. I mean, there's more. Like, we built bridges with a lot of people that you never think that we would ever build bridges with.
And I think the most important people to build bridges with are people who claim or think that they hate you or hate people like you. Because because typically they're expecting, if they hate you or people like you, they're expecting you to, like, hate them back, or they're expecting you to be a certain type of person. And when you just step up and you, like, shake their hand, weird.
You can't, yeah.
That changes things.
I've got a thought, something I've noticed lately that I'd love you guys to comment on after I've congratulated you for being here. And while I was looking at my phone, it was because I was Instagramming out to the world, not because I was not busy reading. So I love your whole philosophy. I've been part of that kind of philosophy for a long while.
Paved the way.
And
Thank you, OG.
And I'm so thrilled to see our movement heading more and more in that direction. It's not just you, it's a lot of people with the Meatless Mondays and the Flexitarians. I've noticed something which I've started to be a little bit concerned about. There's a certain irony where there's starting to be a bit of an attitude towards the vegan police, towards the people who don't quite get this yet, people who are where you were when you first joined, an attitude of pretty major snarkiness towards them, really insulting them. And I think, and I go sometimes onto the pages of a friend of mine and I say, oh, are you judging the judges again? And I just noticed that why is it that now we've gotten to the point where we're fine if you're a carnivore, but if you're a militant vegan, then we have every right to humiliate you. And I think, can't we reach out to the militant vegans with the same loving, maybe it might try it this way, maybe, you know?
I think you make a really good point. And that's actually a mistake that's a mistake that I've made. Like I've done.
We both made it.
Right?
We've made it in some of our videos.
I mean, we've literally posted things where we're like, holy crap,
Holy
you're
crap,
getting
we
a
shouldn't have done
little
that.
angry there. And part of it is like we're on a journey. We're trying to figure this out.
Right.
We're making a lot of mistakes along the way, but we're moving forward. We do feel like the bridge with anyone is understanding. So one of the things, like in a lot of our interviews, like we're making a point to like, sure, we do critique that because it's such an obstacle to invitation. It's such an obstacle to it being open. But we do understand where they're coming from. He used to be one of them. So we do understand it. And it is true. Like if you go, somebody who spent their entire life like not thinking that animals are being mistreated and then opens their eyes, 25 years later, and they're like, holy crap, oh my gosh. And then they go vegan. And then they're looking around and people are eating their friends like 3 or 4 times a day. Like, yeah, I get it, right? Because you just had this full frontal assault and your world's been totally rocked. So we understand it.
And I think we do need to be understanding of like new vegans or people who just get stuck there and they don't progress beyond that. But I think at the same time also another thing is like I think it's important to watch the negativity that we allow into our lives. So it's like on one hand I don't want to judge like newer vegans who are maybe more militant or whatever, but at the same time it's also like we need like it's important, especially as vegans and people that are trying to spread this message. It's important. It's really, really, really important to stay positive and to keep a positive frame of mind. And if you're surrounding yourself with other vegans who are more negative and just lashing out, like that's not a good environment to be around.
And we've noticed that with our approach that we've been honing, that he first tried with me and that we've pretty much used on everybody. We've used it on you.
It's got a lot of people.
We're
like
fast.
Personal life.
This is inside baseball, but we're fast tracking people past that. People that come to what we're talking about through us, they don't really do that. It's hard for them. It's gonna be a left turn if they end up doing that because they just naturally you embody what you learn from. And so if we just have less of that and the voices more of like these type of welcoming voices, it just kind of becomes diminished. So we understand, but we also do want to move past that as quickly as we can.
Good question. So with that said, when your friends from back home or college, let's say you went out to lunch or dinner and they said, oh, I want like the steak and a plate full of like lamb chops, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a salad, and you're like, oh, is there cheese in it, and all these like, how did that, because sometimes that can get, how did you handle that? How do you recommend? I haven't gotten like farther into the book yet, but like what's your kind of like to make the environment vegan towards friendly so that they might come to
Yes,
that
that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Did everyone hear that? No. So she's basically asking, like, when you go out to eat, you know, with someone who's eating meat, and, like, you know, you're eating vegan, and you're asking the server a bunch of questions. How do you navigate that? And I mean, I think it's really important. One of the keys is we want to make eating vegan appear normal, and we want it to appear easy. So those are two keys, because most people, they want to be normal, and they want things to be easy. So it's just framing things that way. And
Also, I
think-
just want to point out how funny it is for anyone who's not vegan. They're like,
You're like,
wow, this is really strict. This is like
What
a
is
strategy
this?
session.
What is this discussion going on right now?
But they're also like, wow, that actually is way different than I thought. Anyway, sorry. So at a restaurant.
Yeah, so you want it to appear normal. You want it to appear easy, because people want to be normal, and they want things to be easy. I did lose my train of thought.
Dang it.
At a restaurant.
So, well, I mean, we learned early on. So we had roommates, and we were in a small town. Like, we were not in LA, where, like, there's vegans everywhere. But we went vegan in a small town, and straight up, we actually thought it was easy. Like, we've occasionally come across some people in LA who talk about how being vegan is hard, and we really have to hold.
It is
back.
not hard
We
to
really
eat
have hold
vegan in
back.
LA.
So we went vegan in Howell, Michigan, and it was easy, and we were friends with people that had no clue about that stuff. And our goal, like, it was a point of pride for us to not even make a deal out of it at all. To just go wherever they wanted to go, find a way to make it work, not ask too many questions,
Yeah.
and really just make it easy.
Yeah,
Make it appear easy.
that's one of the things, is like making it appear easy. So one right there is, like, not grilling your server. Like, one of my friends in the Northeast, he has a rule where he's like, I'm only allowed to ask the server 2 questions. And honestly, I think if you can make it one, like, that's good. And it's like, you want to do the best you can. Like, eating vegan, it's not about being 100% perfect. It's about helping animals, and it's about reducing suffering as much as possible.
That's good.
So, like, when you're ordering at a restaurant, if you're grilling the server, if you're asking, like, a lot of different questions, and the person you're eating with thinks it's weird, like, think about it. Like, if that person saw you ordering, they thought it was easy, the amount of animals that could save with that person
Yes.
changing. Whereas if they think it's hard and they don't change, and then, like, you know,
Yes.
they just eat meat every meal after that. So
Yeah.
I think 1, like, not grilling your server, and then 2, not feeling like you need to be absolutely 100% perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
that's-
a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Also go online before you go to the restaurant and look at their menu and plan ahead.
True, yeah, if you want to do that, you can do that. Or, you know, but don't, you know, it's like, we don't like to bog people down. So you can go online. Yeah, anyways. Yeah.
You cannot go online, but you don't have to.
So now you've made your impact, and like they want to transition to a vegan lifestyle. What would your top, say, 3 tips be for an easy transition?
We would say
Tip. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, tip number 1 is, don't feel like you need to go 100% vegan overnight. A lot of people, and that's a lot of vegans, they just want to push you into doing that. And it's like, when someone wants to go vegan, it's like, don't feel like you need to do that, because a lot of people will do it overnight, and then, you know, fast forward 1 week, 1 month, or whatever, and they'll, you know, they go backwards, and they stop. We would more advocate just, you know, easing into it, whatever way, and maybe you're getting out of your comfort zone, but it's like, it's something that seems doable to you. So 1, not going 100% vegan overnight, but then also at the same time, having a strong, staying focused on like your why. So it's like, what is the reason you're doing this? Is it because you saw videos showing how the animals were treated? Is it because of the environment, the amount of environmental impact? Is it because, you know, health, whatever? It's like keeping that in your mind.
And internalizing, I guess, thirdly, is just internalizing the truth that it's not an all or nothing proposition, and that it's a process, and that a failure is part of the process. So, you know, part of the line that I think vegans have sort of accidentally like solidified over time in the past is that it's this thing that you have to like really like you have to jump over it. You're either on this side or you're on that side. And so, I mean, we'll be straight up, we're trying to obliterate the line. Like, you're already vegan on the inside. That's where we're at. You can disagree with us, but that's where we're at. I mean, that's indicative of our approach. Like, there is no line, there are no sides. We're all on this journey just trying to figure it out. So when you're going that route, you can't, like, you want to push yourself, like in anything in life. Your goal, you have to push yourself to be a little better, but you need to be confident that you can achieve that. So we straight up discourage people from going vegan tomorrow or today because we feel like there's an internal process, like a mental process and a primer that needs to take place so that they naturally sort of come into it instead of feeling like, crap, I screwed up. Mm-hmm. And then they're back, then they're back to their old ways. So I would say that's kind of the thing.
Hi. So I'm vegan also, and I think one of the hardest things is family. So like, you love your family and they love you too, and like even though you want to be cool with them and you know that they're on a journey, like they're your family, so you know that they're not gonna like hate you for like being like, please go vegan. But it's like they're the closest people to you, and you love them, and you just want them to be like healthier, and you want them to like get on board with you. So like for me, it's like my parents, like my dad like eats so much meat, and I'm worried about his health, but also like I just want them to like make a change, but I don't want them to be deterred by it. So like, what do you say when it's like people who are really close to you?
I mean, straight up, it's true that the people that are closest to you are the most difficult people to reach with a new way of doing anything. Because they know you based on your past, they know themselves based on their past. There's this ingrained, weird stuff that we all know about, right?
And there's also the thing with your parents where like they've been teaching you, they taught you everything when you were a little kid, and they've been teaching you throughout. They've been your teacher, and now all of a sudden you're the one doing everything. You're the one doing this first, and you're trying to teach them. So there is that dynamic where like a lot of parents, they don't want to,
And we feel like a lot of times when people they're trying to influence their family, they feel like they need to say things overtly, like need to like really like try to convince them. Anytime we're trying to convince people, chances are it's just not really going to work out that well. I mean, we just don't respond well to that as people. So a lot of it, it might sound a little weird, but it's basically just being cool. Like just being a good person and just being the most amazing version of yourself at all times, and holding yourself
that's a good point,
and
right
holding
there.
yourself accountable to doing them, because it is difficult. We know.
When you focus on that's a good point. When you focus on just becoming a better version of yourself, like that's when people will take the most notice. People around you, especially like family and stuff, and look at what you're doing and be influenced by you. That's what I found, at least. Yeah. I guess we both found.
Does that help? Okay, cool.
I just wanted to touch on that quick. My mother's right here, and she said just cook some very delicious vegan meals.
Sweet.
That's our cousin and an uncle all here. We have multiple family.
They flew out and surprised us. Thank you guys. We love you.
It's like, what do you eat? You're vegan. It's like, oh my gosh, there's so many recipe books out there, and it's like, I think that's the whole thing. If you can just cook for them and have them try it. If they don't want to try it, what else can you know?
A bridge to the
James
mouth.
is great.
Which is also a bridge to the heart.
I had a question regarding family. So what if you got off on a wrong foot, but now you're kind of beyond that, and you are, you want to embrace the kinder, loving, compassionate side? How do you rewind and go back to producing that after they kind of already associate you with a militant vegan?
That's such a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing, probably the most important thing is just to apologize. It's that right there could just
We've been talking about that a lot lately. I mean, the more like, and we talk about being authentic, being open, and being yourself. It's like the more vulnerable and open we can be about the things we struggle with. Like someone, she was talking about the way some people like us deal with militant vegans. And straight up, what's the first thing I did? I was like, yeah, I've done that. And it's not something I'm proud of, but it is part of my path. So when we screw up on things, there's a respect. If somebody comes to you and they're like, dude, I screwed up really bad, and you can feel it. You can feel when somebody's authentically like, dude, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. Apology can go a long way.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even explain like your mindset of like why you were doing that, and like not justifying it, but just explain like this is why I was doing it. I'm not gonna do. I'm gonna be better. I'm not gonna do it anymore. But this is why I'm doing it. This is why I did that, and I'm sorry.
And unfortunately, the last thing is you just give them the book because straight up, I mean, it is true. You can literally just
Just show them the cover. Just show them the cover. That's enough for some people.
So I've got an interesting situation. So I'm not actually fully vegan yet. My partner is.
All right, get out. Get out.
So she's a very compelling reason that got me interested in looking at all of that. But I've got 2 kids from a previous relationship as well. So it's an interesting situation because you find yourself, you obviously want to encourage them. You've also got, when you're trying to help raise them in certain things you see as valuable, then other people are going to question that. They're going to say it's not right, and they're going to want to then, you're going to have all sorts of outside influences that will want to judge that as well. So how do you deal with that sort of external influence?
Sorry, this part of this is that his daughter actually tried to adopt vegetarianism because she was inspired, and the first thing we heard was, "Oh, she's tired. We're gonna go check her iron." It's like that kind of attitude.
And it's no surprise conclusion Orion wasn't the issue. It's a tricky one, but how do you deal with
can you frame the question like in a very short way?
So bring it right down. So basically, when you're trying to help other people then look into that, how do you deal with and help them deal with the negative feedback they'll get so it becomes still a positive thing, so that it doesn't create conflict with other people while they're looking into what you're advising them as well?
Well, I think part of it is just, people always have opinions of other people and what other people should do, but they shouldn't. Like, just do what you want to do. And so if we can feel comfortable, it's true. When you're doing something new, it is difficult, and you're stepping out and you're being different, right? So if you can frame it in your mind, or you have like maybe a close inner circle that can frame it in your mind that you're doing something amazing and you feel good about it and you feel empowered, and people might feel a little weird about it, but that means that you're living as this new person in the future that's not based on your past, and you're excited about that. So if you can reframe it, I think that can be helpful. I don't know.
So more your response to the way that they treat it rather than...
Because what's the truth? We can't really control what other people are going to do. I can tell someone when they give me their opinion that, like, dude, honestly, like, I'm not really concerned with your opinion.
Other people's opinions.
Ooh, TD Jakes. Other people's opinions of me is none of my business. That's one of our favorite quotes.
Or as Captain Paul says, and I should care what you think because why?
That's good. That's good.
That's really good. Paul Watson's.
So,
No, you're
okay, so thank you so much for the book. I'm like halfway through and I'm loving it. I totally agree with like being compassionate, and I'm about how my first year being vegan, and I've kind of held that, kept that in mind. And you guys have like a lot of people around you who turn into veganism. So my question is, is it just something that has naturally occurred because you have this presence of like just being accepting and accepting where they are and not being pushy? Or have you also been like tactful about like when you share information, do you just wait until people ask you questions? Like what's the best way to go about that? Just like sharing information.
I mean, to me, there is an art to it, and I'm gonna be straight up. Like when it comes to inspiring people to go vegan, like I'm a nerd when it comes to that. Like I've read like hundreds of books. I've like handed out hundreds of thousands of leaflets on college campuses. I did all these protests and stuff. Like I've lived this, and that's like been in my head just constantly. But I think it's like, so I'm a nerd when it comes to that. But I think it's important. It's like it's like when you're trying to do something, it's like you find someone that's they've already become successful at doing what you want to do, and to learn from them. But then also it's just like there's basic keys and strategies to follow. Like be understanding of people. Don't feel like you need to bring it up at all moments of.
And it's kind of shifting the vibe. A lot of our answers are very airy, but it's true. It's like if you can shift from feeling like you're pushing something onto someone to actually attracting them into you. That's kind of like pickup artisty stuff, but it just works. I mean, it's true. Like if you're
the more laid back you are about it, yeah.
Laid back.
When you're laid back,
the more you're unconcerned with if they ever make a change, what happens? Everyone changes. They're like following you. So it really is like this feeling, like a vibe thing. And if you can kind of if you can feel that and then project that out, you just suck everyone in. It's true.
I'm a big fan of the book Change of Heart that you mentioned before, and I was wondering if there's any other books like that or people or anything that you think are just as interesting in terms of the psychology and that kind of thing. Like, what would be your second favorite if you had to talk about a book or a person or... Where to start?
So, I would say like also How to Change. Sorry, we've read too many books.
There's like so many books. Like we're just like, oh my god, the whole books.
We think one of the things that we reference this book in the book. It's Chip and Dan Heath. They wrote a book called Switch. I think it's called Switch: How to Change When Change is Hard.
Yeah.
And so, we'll be straight up. A lot of our favorite books on this stuff, they're not written to a vegan audience. They're written to marketers, psychologists, like all of that.
Think and Grow Rich is a really good book that I think like all vegan advocates.
That's just a mindset shift. That is a mindset shift.
But How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's another really good one.
Yeah.
Like
That's
basic,
so good.
You know.
So much.
I mean, like that's another thing. Like there's a lot of nuances.
We'll make a full list so Len's happy that you guys buy them all the way out.
Well, behind this one.
After this
So this is number 2. Right.
We're gonna do one more. Crap.
What are some unique ways that going vegan has positively impacted your life?
Straight up, like before I went vegan, I was extremely shy. I was extremely socially awkward. I was weird. Didn't know how to talk to people.
He wore socks on his hand.
I wore socks on my hand in 10th grade. I had a mohawk for a week. And yeah, I went vegan and like everything just started making sense. And part of it was like I found my purpose. It's like
that's huge.
Like most, like the way I looked at it is like nearly all the suffering, like most suffering in the world is happening on factory farms and in slaughterhouses. There's, like billions of animals just like being tortured and killed. And so I realized like if I want to have the most massive impact possible that I can on a personal level possible, it's like that's where I need to focus my time and energy. And so I started focusing my time and energy there, and as I'm focusing my time and energy there, I'm realizing that like, okay, in order to impact people, I need to become a better person. I need to my appearance needs to improve. I need to become more healthy. I need to adopt a more positive mental attitude. I need to be more understanding of people. I need to maybe not be so crazy and advocate veganism so hardcore. I need to be, I don't know. It's just that all this stuff just started working itself out. As I'm just focused on my goal, everything else just started falling into place. And I think that's the most important, the most important key to success in anything is keeping your mind on the goal that you're trying to reach at all times. And you'll have different people trying to pull you different directions, but if you can stay focused on the goal, everything else just works out.
Yeah, and it's the story you tell. Having the goal in mind, we've screwed up a ton. Like just in the past 3 years, we've screwed up like nonstop.
Which is another part. That's another key to success is failure.
Screw up as much as you can and learn from it every time, and keep your eye on the prize. And you're always gonna keep going that way. But it's also changing the story that you tell yourself about who you are, because a lot of people feel and have embodied and have learned from others that somehow, like he learned early on when he went vegan, he thought he was supposed to become a nasty, angry, kind of weird person and feel like this is a sacrifice, this is terrible, and I want everyone else to feel terrible with me. And I understand, because it's true, animals are being hurt everywhere, and it's really, really, really bad. I've seen the videos. But the story we tell ourselves is we are so excited every breath of every day to be able to change the narrative in the world. What we're putting out in the world is actually shifting things in a positive way. And so when we tell ourselves the story that we're doing something amazing, that's inspiring, that's empowering, that's going to help us figure everything else out, you just walk with your chest out, your head held high, and you feel good about yourself, everything just falls into place. That's a good way to do it.